Hello, I'm going to be doing another reading for you today, and today we're going to be doing runes. So, what we're going to be looking at is a couple of them that came out, and we're going to be going through what I have studied them to be, and then also to look at the chart over here to see how this could possibly translate to. So when I do these readings, I want you guys to think about not necessarily identifying with any type of sign. It's more like an energy. The way that I'm reading it is considered horary, which means that the time in which a question arises or something like that, we cast a chart for it. So even though this is Cancer rising, and you may happen to be a Cancer rising, I would say maybe listen to this a little bit more, or if you have any big placements there. But one of the things I would say is just kind of listen to this and see if you identify with it. If you don't, okay. If you do, awesome. So I decided to do a cast of runes and see how they came out. And two of them came out on their sides. So I spent some time with that trying to figure out, okay, there's the traditional way that they're meant to be, there's the reversed, but what does it mean when the energy comes out sideways? Now, just general, when something is going sideways, it means that, like, sometimes can hint to a sense of lack of control, or somebody's not coming at you, or a situation doesn't feel like it's being direct, it's kind of coming in a roundabout kind of manner. So the two that I'm going to start with were the ones that were sideways. So the first one is Wunjo. So let me see if I can get close enough so you can see it. All right, so there we go. So this is how it's meant to be normally, but it came on its side. So this normally means joy and happiness, but because it came out on its side, it refers to an oblique or an indirect way. To be present, but to be functioning in an unfocused, or there is a delay, or something is currently maybe neutral. It can mean that you are almost there and keep your eyes on the road. And it can mean that there is a delayed gratification. So the first thing we would like to look at is delayed gratification. That is Saturn, baby! Right? Saturn is sometimes the obstruction or the delay, and we can also look to Mercury, which is in retrograde. So these energies. And then, because the energy of Wunjo is actually very Jupiterian, we want to keep an eye on where Jupiter is. So, in the areas of the self, the ascendant rules over the body, the self. And a lot of times it's considered the mask because it's very shell-like. It's the outside of the book that gets covered or assumed about. So Jupiter is functioning in a Cancerian type of energy, while Mercury is retrograde in the 9th house, which sometimes can quite literally mean traveling, flight delays, something like that. And over here in the 10th house is Aries. But everything is getting shoved over like it's showing up in a different energy. So we have long distance travel, hopes, dreams, and aspirations, and the self. Now those aren't the only, obviously there's a lot of stuff happening in the chart. But when we're doing a reading like this, we have to focus on the energies. There's a lot to unpack in a chart, and it would be like impossible to do an entire video about what it means. But those are the areas that immediately stand out to me. And I probably should say that this reading was done on March 11th, 2026, and the time was 1:29:12. seconds, or it would be 13, 29, 12, depending on if you're in a European energy or place. The happiness or the success that you seek is coming. And we have to think about Jupiter has been in retrograde, which means that for the last 4.5 months you've experienced some sort of stalled out energy or revising, and it going forward does talk about something changing. Now if we go up here to the 9th house, the delayed gratification can be this little guy right here, Mercury in retrograde, which means that, like, the 9th house is where our mind goes to expand, to learn something we didn't know that we didn't know, and sometimes it's, it can be in the realm of faith, it can be the realm of, higher knowledge, going to school, getting degrees, it can be meditative type of sabbaticals, different things like that. It could be finding our guru or teacher, our, something like that, inspired into the career in which we find ourselves in. But there is also a temporary stall. It's not a no, but it's a not quite yet. We love those, don't we? It can sometimes hint to an imbalance of joy in one or more areas while neglecting another. Okay. So the North Node can be the area where we take things too far, where we kind of are drawn in an endless, insatiable drive towards something. It's the never-ending want or need area. And this is the area where something is lacking. So sometimes, like, we could be too focused on things out in the world because weird things are happening, right? Different experiences in the world are causing our mind to be out there, but we're neglecting our own, environment, what's around us. Sometimes it can be a good thing, like we're getting rid of, what we thought we knew to go towards stuff that we need to know. And this is just telling you where the area is that we may be neglecting. So our community of some sort. And the South Node is in the house of Mercury. Okay, sometimes can hint to an imbalance, the joy that we're neglecting. Maybe your emotional comfort is high, but intellectually, stimulation feels flat, or vice versa. Well, this can definitely be the area where something feels missing. Maybe we have something very far outside of ourselves, but not near ourselves. Yeah, high intellectual stimulation up here. May need to look at the reality of a situation before celebrating. Okay. To celebrate. It makes me think of Venus because she is, kind of the goddess of pleasure. She's, but she's so close to Saturn that would make sense. Saturn is like the responsible one, and she's like only 3 degrees away from him in conjunction with the part of Fortune. So that energy is so close to each other, which means that we're so close to like the achievement or to some sort of goal, but it's probably sometimes you may think something and it just needs to be felt without trying to solve it. Okay, the moon over here, every reading I do is always in the 6th house. So I don't know if I'm reading for like the same person through different mediums, or it just seems like, reevaluating our emotions. Now the moon is at 24 degrees, and it is opposite Uranus in this chart, even though it's technically supposed to be in Taurus. It's being shoved this way, so it's in an opposition according to the house that it's in by 4 degrees. So there's some sort of, you got to celebrate with your whole heart for the right reasons on the right day, not just because it kind of like, when there's a lot of energy in the 11th house, it's because that's what other people might be wanting. It's just, it doesn't feel like the time is right to do something. It could represent guilty pleasures or joy that feels complicated. Joy that feels complicated. Now, based on the way that these look in these houses, the moon and Jupiter are in a wide kind of quincunx, which is kind of like awkward. It's like when you walk up to like the corner of a wall and you want to see what's in the corner, but you can't because there's that weird angle where you just can't see around it. There's, if you can't see literally around something, an emotion, a situation, or whatever it is, that's probably why it's telling you to wait, because like you want to whole ass that celebration, whatever it is, and this is like a good thing, but it can feel frustrating with this energy because it just kind of feels like it almost feels right and then it doesn't. It feels like there's still something coming that you need to wait for. Shadow work may help to feel the pure energy that is being promised. Now, Juno rules over the word promises, so maybe this is a celebration, could be a wedding of some sort. It could be any kind of thing, but, Jupiter is known as husband and Juno is known as Jupiter's wife. So, there's that. So when we're talking about shadow work, in the 8th house, that has a lot to do with, I've said it before, it's the secrets, it's the traumas, it's the death and rebirth area, it's the merging with people, both physically and financially. It is all those different things. So if Pluto is there, it's trying to ask you to kind of like run around in the things that maybe you are the one that's holding yourself back from pursuing something, whether it's a business relationship, an actual physical relationship, whatever it is. But the moon in the 6th house is at 24 minutes and 42 seconds, which is funny. That could be considered mirror image number, right? Maybe it could be a birthday party. Finding the joy in the process rather than waiting to feel it at the destination. That's a big thing that we all struggle with because we want to feel it now. And Saturn's like, nope. We're going to feel it, just not yet. Jupiter's here showing you that in direct motion, whatever it is, you now are where Jupiter's got its sights on. And it's kind of like, when Jupiter's in the 1st house, it's going to give you a lot of abundance. And sometimes the abundance isn't always a good thing, right? And you may have to sift through the overwhelm of too many things, too many situations. Also, Jupiter loves food and Cancer is the stomach. So it could say that sometimes we may become a little bit more fluffy in some kind of way. And then Jupiter's going to move into the 2nd house, which does rule over the stomach, which means double whammy. We need to be careful both about what we eat and how we spend, because Jupiter coming to the 2nd house can mean blessings, money, the part of fortune over here also equals money. So Jupiter can bring a lot of money, but it can also bring a lot of bills, and it can bring a lot of overspending, different things like that. So also when Jupiter kind of is in your 2nd house, you want to make sure you're not eating too many fatty foods, right? To prolong our joy. And are we rushing results? Am I ignoring red flags because I want this to be the one? I mean, Mars is the red one, coming into the door, want this to be the right one. I mean, with Mercury coming back through the door and Mars about to go through the door and they're about to communicate with each other, you know, Mars equals 2. Mercury's in retrograde. Mars means to cut something. So not both things can go? I don't know what that means. Or like, for example, we want the best of both worlds, but we're only really willing to work for one. You know, you want your cake, but you also want to eat it too. And, you know, you don't want just the slice, you want the whole damn thing, you know. And also the hummingbird may be a symbol or an animal spirit that might be something that you would be seeing as confirmation. Honorable mention is also the deer. So that was Wunjo, which is a very positive energy. I know that sometimes when I read, it kind of sounds like it's negative, but I always try to make sure that whatever, you know, it's like, you know, if you needed to know the truth, hey, if you stop doing this, this will happen. If you get through this, this will happen, you know. This is all also in theory. I'm just reading what the symbols mean, and maybe or maybe not. They may mean something. We have no idea. All right, so this is Othel or Othelia. This is on a tiger's eye gemstone. And tiger's eye rules over the third eye. This is an expansion of the mind type of stone. So this energy is ruled heavily by Saturn. And it came out like on its side as well. So sometimes the energy of Saturn is kind of coming at you sideways. So it talks about heavy things. Ancestry, the home, physical property, or the legacy that you carry. So that whole energy is down here talking about the 4th house. And sometimes our, you know, our aunts, uncles, cousins, brothers, sisters, you know, family. Sorry guys, I always do that. Okay. Anyway. To move or to change or to, you know, maybe go back to investigating our family. Like sometimes we get pulled to learn about our family, our history in different ways. And then Libra is ruled by Venus, and here she is. Technically, she should be here, which means that she would be opposing this house, but because this chart has shoved her over here, we're going to honor the fact of where she is. So, we are literally talking about things that, like property, land, which she rules over, and legacy with Saturn. The two of them, which are exalted here, are being shoved in over here into the 11th house. It says, legacy you carry. And if it's heavy, that means that sometimes Saturn can be grandfathers, and Venus can symbolize women. Or it could be like on the female side, mother side, the grandfather, something about grandfather could be important. And it may mean that you feel like you're in a state of limbo regarding your place in the world. It may point to unfinished business centered around the home. So sometimes, like, you want to go forward, you want to experience stuff, and then when you go to experience stuff, it's like the situations or the experience isn't always the best, and we kind of wonder why things are the way that they are. And then sometimes this could ask us, you know, like, our behaviors, mannerisms. Where did we get those? Who influenced us? Are those something that we want to keep? You know, because we see it in such a higher experience in our mind, and sometimes the world can be lackluster. You may feel like you don't belong where you currently are. The outsider effect. That would definitely be here, the third house. You know, it is frustrating to try to be one with the community and always feel like you don't fit in. So then you're just basically in a room full of people feeling alone anyway. There could be a stuck energy regarding a home or a move within a family dynamic, and deciding what parts of a legacy you want to keep and which ones you want to drop. So that could definitely be a thing, you know, and it could also be the reason why these guys are over here talking about it is a dream of mine to not be where I'm at. And that's not a bad thing. It can kind of feel sad when we feel like, you know, we are outgrowing our community or we're outgrowing our environment, when we literally don't feel home where our home is, you know, different energies like that. It can feel not the greatest when we're going through it, but it's a wake-up call, right? And Jupiter in Cancer is big feelings, right? And then the moon is in the home of Jupiter, so they're like in a mutual reception of talking to each other about what's happening and how they're feeling about stuff. Even though it's a quincunx, it's kind of a positive thing, because like Jupiter is feeling those big feelings, and the energy of Sagittarius is using those emotions, hopefully for the best kind of things. Like, you know, one of the things about Sagittarius is it rules basically from our hips down. So if you're like a runner, you know, that would be great for you. Or emotionally, intellectually allowing yourself to travel, to learn different cultures, maybe different languages, how like travel might be soothing to you. It's not a clean break, and it's not experienced comfortably. Fun. Okay. So a clean break would refer to the idea of Mars, because Mars is, again, the scissors, something that cuts something. It's not a clean break. And it's not experienced comfortably. That would be the North Node. And the reason why it's the North Node is because, like, for example, if you say, something is my purpose, I'm going to go towards that. Your purpose is often something you don't know where you're going. So when everyone's in a hurry, I need my purpose, I want to know why I'm here, like, it's not experienced comfortably. Are you okay to be uncomfortable? Can you be comfortable being uncomfortable? Can you be okay dealing with things that are literally foreign to you? People who speak a language that you do not understand? Feeling like you want to, Mars could be an impulsive move to a foreign country without knowing the language. You know, if that could be a thing. The two sideways energies could possibly mean that our ability to feel joy may be muffled by responsibilities or old stories. And that means like constantly having to clean the house, or constantly putting the chores, or constantly putting work and all those things as the number one priority, and putting what makes you happy on the back burner. Not making time for yourself. Not giving yourself time to play. And the vertex is here in the 5th house, which is the house of play. And it's in the house of Scorpio, which means that, like, maybe you should, like, sometimes we think play means we have to play with other people, which you don't feel like you fit in with, right? And we also feel like our play has to be witnessed, which isn't true. Scorpio is very secretive. likes, energy of Mars, one-on-one dynamics, not a big, hey, let's have a massive party kind of thing. So, like, if you're trying to plan a party, think about what you actually like. Do I like to be surrounded by that many people? No. Like, a great party could be 4 people. It doesn't have to be the whole family of a bunch of people that you are trying to include in your life. That, you have this weird sensation of just feeling like you don't fit in. So it's okay to do things and not tell anybody. Don't tell anybody. Especially because, the 5th house being ruled by our passions and something, Pluto that we care deeply and passionately about. Sometimes when we tell people about things that we're doing and that we like, people are automatically going to be like, oh, well, you shouldn't do that because blah, 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 or so-and-so already does it, or, different things like that. So then they, like, you can sometimes invite toxic patterns and behaviors into your life and then ruin your own joy. So stop doing that. And possibly your mind may race with what-if scenarios about security or one's future. You must try to stop over-analyzing the blueprint and just sit with it for a minute. Now, the one thing that I find interesting, because I do readings all the time, is how many people say, I can't meditate. And it's because everybody's trying to meditate the way that they show us, right? You got to sit down. You got to sit with your legs in these weird positions for hours on end and stare at the back of your eyes, and meanwhile the entire time you're freaking out about everything you got to do today. Think about your mind. What makes you actually physically relax? For this chart, the 12th house is ruled by Gemini, which is ruled by Mercury. So this person's way of resting is like mentally, audibly hearing something. Like audiobooks or, something like that. Like active rest for some people is walking, right? The energy of walking, running, allowing our body to work while our mind is working, and allowing us to witness and observe what is happening in our mind. It doesn't mean you have to sit still. If you have a really hard time doing that, don't force yourself to do it. Meditation can happen anywhere at any moment doing anything. The only thing that it requires is for your mind to be open to receive information that sometimes you may or may not like, to re-witness, yourself in scenarios and try to see yourself, like, for example, it wants you to sit with it. So it wants you to see everything. Not to solve it, not to rush towards it, to sit with it. Because sometimes the longer you sit with something, you can find a better way. You see a better way. And then I was also talking about a blueprint. So if it's talking about a home and a moving and a whatever, we do want a perfect home. Right? But if you're obsessing to the point where it steals your joy, like I'm never going to find the house that I want, well then you won't, because you just said I'll never find the house that I want. I'll never find my home. I'll never find my people. Whatever it is. The energy of saying that it's coming, it's just not here yet, means that the thing in which you're asking for does exist. And it is on its way to you, especially because the hopes and dreams, aspirations area, part of fortune's like, here I am, rock you like a hurricane. It's like purposely singing bad. It's great. Okay, and then another energy of this, because also the energy influenced by the rising, is the hermit crab. And it may be a symbol of being between shells. Like, I just left the shell that was too tight. I couldn't fit in it anymore. The space was claustrophobic. It's not big enough, right? Now I'm in that weird vulnerable state where I'm running around naked trying to find my clothes, Like, maybe before we leave the one that we're in, we should wait till we've found the other one so we're not running around naked. I don't know why that's there, but it's a really funny way to think about it. Okay, so then we have, I don't know why I always have a hard time. So this is Gifu, which means the gift. So acknowledging all the things prior to what we went through, the gift is, and the wonderful thing is that this, no matter what direction it comes in, it doesn't really have a reversed meaning. It just it's a positive one. Whatever occurs acts in a positive manner. So even though like we're talking about this difficult stuff, things that we want to get away, not feeling like we belong in our environment, like sometimes it just kind of like it's a thread, an undercurrent. We're feeling that and we're just kind of like, man, I just don't feel like I belong here. I don't feel like my friends are my friends. I feel like they're like people. And I just happen to know their names. And they happen to know mine. And at one point we had a conversation that was fun. But now I don't talk to them anymore. And now I just feel like there's nothing here. And I have that sensation of wanting to wander into a direction that I feel called. I can't really explain why. So it'll happen in a good way, which means that like if it happens as an undercurrent, it means that positive manifestations in front of your face making the decisions easier if we wait. That's the hardest part. Everybody has the hardest time waiting. I'm impatient, you're impatient. Time has all the time in the world. And then we freak out because we're like, I'm however many levels, ages old, and I'm running out of time. Yes, we are. We are running out of time. And yet, you have all the time in the world to get done exactly what you're supposed to do. It is a good sign that any undertaking made at this span of, or in this span of time is indicated by the reading. So the reading is at March 11th. So something, whatever it was that we're working on, in this current moment, can become an important development within relationships. But it can point literally to the romantic side of relationships more accurately. It can mean a gift enters in your life, such as money, which is over here, pennies from heaven. Scusi. Or the problem has its roots in an emotional nature. An emotional nature, roots. So another thing is that the emotional nature, somebody could be upset with their husband or just, some type of male figure. Could be funny. Not everybody, obviously. It can point to some connections that are 100% genuine or a deep sense of emotional reciprocity. So that's a beautiful change compared to the energy of I don't feel like I belong here. I feel like I'm a wanderer and I feel invisible here. And then you have somebody, or sometimes a group of people, could be, come in and make you feel safe. I found my soul family. And they're 100% genuine, which is nice. To lean into partnerships that grant us stability. Now, when Venus and Saturn come into conjunction, they normally can hint to a long-term love relationship, right? They are in the energy of Aries. Again, they're being shoved into Taurus. So I'm going to tell you what Aries means, and then I'll tell you what Taurus means, because the chart that I'm doing right now decided that that's where they belong. So they can be in this area and showing up in this energy, is what that could be saying, which is the both and theory. So Saturn and Venus don't do really well in Aries, because Aries is ruled by Mars, and Mars is Ricky Bobby and quick everything. And, you know, part of the challenge of, you know, Saturn being in Aries is Saturn wants to go slow. The energy of Aries is go now, and Saturn's like, no, I don't like this, I don't want this is too fast, I'm not ready. And Venus, she can get really mad and just like explode. She can get really mad, or we can be lighting our money on fire in some kind of capacity. But because it's shoving them over here into Taurus, where Venus rules over this energy, Saturn likes to go slow. It's like this energy of like there's magic in the slow dance, whether it's a relationship or it's a dream or creating some sort of union. This is a long-term thing. Saturn normally equals about 29.6 years, give or take a few, depending on what sign he's in and how long he retrogrades and how big the sign is, vice versa. So the energy of Saturn being in that house means that even if you feel impulsive to go into a relationship, to change your marital status, or to go into some type of partnership or collaboration or long-term venture, the energy is asking you is to, above all sensations and compulsivity that you may feel, it's asking you to be okay going slow. It grants us stability that we maybe feel like we're missing somewhere else. And the wolf spirit comes forward with this energy, and it speaks of the gift of a pack that is equal in exchange of protection, food, and loyalty. So it's no longer a one-man wolf pack. It's now at least 3 or more. You know, sometimes we may go from an environment where it feels like we're surrounded by a bunch of takers and not one person's a giver, and we feel like we're a rare breed, and so we pull away from those circles and we start wandering, and, you know, we're going through our death and rebirth cycles because we're reevaluating, you know, is it me, is it them, is it my environment, is it whatever, you know, and then we find people that it's reciprocity, it's people, you know, and it's not always like, I'll do this for you if you do this for me. It's like, I see that you need this. I'm going to give this to you because this is what I have. And then another moment, you see that somebody else needs something, or you can do something for somebody, and you do that for them. Not because you feel, there is always a little bit like, I feel like I owe you this, you know, but it's more like a respect. Like, I can show up for you in this way, right? So that can be the gift. And then our last one, Aiwass, came in reverse. So Aiwass, the sentence that came through was, the horse stopped in its tracks. Now, the horse is ruled by the energy of Sagittarius. So Sagittarius and Cancer energy still coming through, because that's where our friends are hanging out. And the vehicle, Mars, and it could be a literal vehicle, to get where you're going is currently stalled, or you may be asked to take a major detour, which is Mercury. So you're on your way. If you are wondering, am I doing the right thing? You are going in the right direction. But you're stalled out because you got to enter the energy of Pisces. You know, Mars works better in air and fire. In water, he doesn't have as much steam. it's just too much, too out there, and Mercury's in retrograde. So it's showing you that, sometimes this makes me think straight up a flight to a foreign country is delayed or rerouted, or we choose to go a different place than we initially thought we were going to go. Could feel like a lack of momentum. Maybe your car doesn't start, or the partner isn't ready to run yet. And that can come back to the slow move, slow. Your 7th house is ruled by Capricorn. You like to go slow, or your partner is slow. Slow. You want them to be a stable energy, and sometimes it's not that they're holding you back, it just means that them not being ready means it's not time to happen yet. They're not holding you back. This is a different type of energy. It can warn you that you are forcing a situation that isn't ready to move yet, right? So, if we try to force something, we have potential to ruin it, which could be the energy of it's over before it began, which nobody wants that. We want to make sure that we don't waste our time, energy, and or effort in that department. Or it can be telling us not that way. Like, we're going in the right direction, but I'm going to just push you a little bit this way, and there you go. It's just, don't be hell-bent on it has to happen a specific way, because if you do that, you are the one that's getting in your own way. You are slowing your own self down. Slow down, or you will be forced to slow down. So, Mars here. Slow down, Ricky Bobby. Already starting to get the sensation of being forced to slow down because he's 1 degree away from the door. He is right there. There's bliss in the buildup. It's not always about the end. It's not always about the destination. Allow yourself to go slow. Love your dreams and the person enough to go slow. What are you in a hurry for? Because once we accomplish this, there's just another accomplishment after that. If this is telling you we're going to be celebrating something, celebrate it the right way. Find comfort in the pause, and not to become comfortable or dig your heels in too hard. Sometimes we need a pause before we start a journey that requires stamina, right? Because Mars is about to come into Aries. He just entered Pisces. But when Mars goes into Aries, that's going to be an event for all of us, within ourselves and outside of ourselves in the world. This moment is recalibration. This is asking you to make sure that your immune system is being taken care of, that you're not stressing yourself out. That's probably why meditation might be super important for you, to find a way to deal with your pent-up energy. And the horse or the bear may be significant animal totems, because Cancer is the bear, Sagittarius is the horse. Don't wake up the bear too early, or it will lead to trouble. Right? Ain't nobody want a pissed off, underslept, hungry, grizzly bear coming after you. Nor does anybody want you to be that. Forced to move before you're ready. Because then we can lash out. Right? So, it is a recalculation in progress. It's a master class in tension and resolution, right? Tension and the resolution that we're waiting for. These two are going to connect in the sky, which means the thing in which we're waiting for is literally going to be walking through the door. And we have to make sure that we're ready so we don't act aggressive or say things without thinking. Either a connection or the connection of some sort is solid. Solid. That energy of solidness. But the container isn't ready. So that, again, makes me think of home. These two are considered in their detriment in the energy of Aries, even though they've been shoved over here to the Taurus. So we are, part of the energy of meditation is to visualize where we want to be. It is not to act on it. Visualization helps us see the process better, so we can make the actions that we really want to create the abundance that we want. The only thing you can truly trust in this moment is the high vibe gift in partnerships and friendships. And you'll know what these relationships are because they're the people that check on you. They're the people that respond to you when you message them. They are the people who correspond mostly with gifts with you. You know, they think of you when something reminds them of you, and they tell you. They don't just like, oh, that made me think of so and so, and never tell them. You know, that's how you know the energy. That's how you know your people. Don't force a move, or a commitment, or a big life change right now, or you will stumble, and you won't be ready for the events that precedes it. And that's part of this energy, is take time to chill. You got to find a way to let the I feel like I need to do something energy release, while trying not to manipulate something and force it into something. Because what happens when we force something, we ruin it. It disappears. Then we don't have it at all. Then we can't celebrate nothing. And there again, it may be a literal vehicle, especially because the third house rules over vehicles and short distance travel, and its rulership is in retrograde with Mars, which is the car. Right? Car something. It can be a literal vehicle, a legal process, or the readiness of a person. I said that already. Value the gift, the person or whatever good things we have in this current moment, and be okay waiting for things to unfold naturally. The action required at this time is spiritual and emotional. To have faith and stop trying to stir things in a way that isn't the right way. Stir things and steer things. I think I meant to write steer, but I said stir. Stir the pot. Don't do that either. You don't want to make bad soup. Don't make bad soup. You can't think your way out of this. Clearly, Mercury's in retrograde. Can't think about shit. Everything's confusing. I'm in the vastness of what the does that mean? You're going to have to feel your way out of this and let yourself rest until the tide changes in your favor. Stop trying to run and allow yourself to drift in the natural current with intention. Now, it doesn't mean don't go running if that's what you need to do. What it means is don't be running head first into a dry pool. You know what I mean? Even if the house is messy and your joy might feel muted, your partnerships are solid. It is okay to lean on your person. It is okay to lean on your community. Or to know this energy is on its way to you. So for example, if you don't feel like you can lean on anybody, which this energy has suggested, it means that those people are on their way to you, and that's part of the patience. And then sometimes you may overlook connections. Sometimes the people that reach out to you, you don't really always acknowledge because there's somebody else's attention that you want, or there's other people that you thought were your friends. And that's where sometimes you got to be careful about that. Sometimes connection is the only real thing right now. But it's not a time for trying to force change. Delay is not denial. It's already in your hands. So, I hope that was helpful, and if you found any value in the reading today, if you could do all the things, like, comment, share, subscribe if you like my random weirdness and the way that I do my readings. Support your girl. It's a lot of research, time, and study that goes into this, and I am definitely a student, and I think I always will be. I'm a practitioner, practicing, so I don't know everything, nor will I ever, but I do know some things. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. Bye.